What do you do when you have 500 acres in Headingley, a tenant that refuses to leave or move, the want and the need to sell these 500 acres? Well, you call an Arete Holdings group to solve those problems for you. Now, let me paint a picture. We have a tenant who lives in this property, refuses to move. The owners did a verbal lease, meaning that they have no records, there's no lease agreement. So this tenant then moved essentially a sawmill onto this property. So there's hundreds and hundreds of trees on this site. Now, this is both illegal and unpermitted. Of course, when you go to the residential tenancies branch, there are difficulties, and so he could not be evicted based on those grounds. A couple years later, the RM of Headingley got involved and actually sought what's called a court injunction to have all of these things removed off site because the RM of Headingley did not want this site being used for that reason, for the reasons of the fact that it was A, not permitted, and B, was unsightly, and C, was causing issues for the community. And so the RM of Headingley worked with the tenant for a number of years to try and get the tenant to cease operations and to move these belongings. The tenant refused, was uncooperative, in fact, was hostile, manipulative, among other things. And so the RM of Headingley got to the point where they were going to get a court injunction, and the owner was looking at between $250,000 to $500,000 worth of expenses to basically remove everything off site. And having said that, even if that succeeded, the tenant would not be gone. Then, of course, what do you do when the tenant decides to lien the property and start a lawsuit for $1.4 million amidst this situation? Well, again, you bring in Arete with the level of experience we have, and we worked with these clients. And now what did we do? We came to site and we began the negotiations with the tenant. We were then successful in getting the tenant evicted. We were then successful in dealing with all of his appeals and all of his games. We, in fact, worked with the RM of Headingley, and the RM of Headingley backed off for a little bit. And then we've continued to work with them throughout this process. And we're now in a legal dispute, of course, with the tenant. Now, being that these owners do not necessarily have the ability to undergo the situation, nor do they have the ability to endure this stressful situation, and being that Arete has dealt with these types of experiences before, Arete is actually working directly with legal counsel and advising them on some of the moves to make. So we're actually in the process of getting a lien removed off of site, off of the property, and because we've had the tenant removed, this actually opened up the possibility of having this property sold. And this property is now conditionally sold. The 500 acres are conditionally sold, and now we're working with the remnants of this. But throughout Arete's creative experiences, we've got the fire department who's willing to burn all of this through a controlled environment. We can also go to auction. We're working with the RTB at requesting the ability to do that without any penalties to the owner. And we're still navigating that. However, in that case, again, Arete was able to promptly remove the tenant and then open that up for the sale of the property, and is working with legal counsel to get the lien dealt with and the lawsuit dealt with. The tenant had been coming back to the property, was breaking and entering into the property. We've worked with the RCMP at dealing with that. So this just goes to show the level of complexities, the level of situations that Arete undergoes and is willing to undergo. And the important thing is Arete will come in and do stuff that others will not do, and has an understanding of many different assets and the mechanisms of working with RMs, working with the RTB, working with government authorities, and how to navigate a lot of these situations and a lot of these issues. Now, having said that as well, Arete will be creative in the sense that we'll analyze at the beginning of whatever your problems are. We'll come up with a game plan, and we'll make sure that everything we can do gets done. And even when we don't know what to do, i.e. when we're left with this mess, is we'll work with authorities, we'll work with the government, we'll find creative solutions, i.e. again, working with the fire department at doing a controlled fire for all this lumber, or working with other mills in the area to come and take this away, because we're currently looking at between $250,000 to $500,000 worth of remedial expenses on this site. And we're going to greatly reduce that because we're going to work collaboratively and creatively with Hutterite colonies, RM, etc., to get all of these belongings removed. And so again, that is the ability and capacity that Arete has in dealing with very complex, very serious matters. and is willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that we succeed in the tasks that we take on and in the projects that we take on and that we represent our clients on.